Hello, students. Welcome back. Students, we have done quite a lot of grammar. We have done so many topics in grammar, and I'm also going to send you the worksheet, uh, a very nice worksheet that I have prepared on conjunctions, the coordinating and the subordinating conjunctions. And I thought that, after studying grammar, for so long, so many grammar topics, I thought that, we should start with some of the literature portion. And the first poem in your syllabus is Where the Mind is Without Fear by Rabindranath Tagore. Now, this is a very short poem. It's easy also, and I am sure that you must have heard it or read it somewhere or the other, before this. So I will give you a link to get the PDF files of these lessons that we will be doing during these days. But I thought that if I have this presentation made, this will give you an entire the record, the entire text of the poem, as well as the explanation and everything that is to know about the poem. We will not do the entire poem in one single go. I will first explain the text to you, and then we'll go on to the literary devices, the poetic devices that are used, whether there is a simile, is there a metaphor, is there rhyming scheme. If there is a rhyme scheme, then what is the rhyming scheme? Then everything about the poem. Okay, then we'll move on to the questions. Okay, so this is the way we will study the poem. So let's begin. First of all, I'll tell you about the poet. We all know Rabindranath Tagore very well. He did not just do give a lot of popularity to Bengali literature and music, but Indian art as well. And he um, introduced the best that was in India to the West. And as you all know, he was the first non European to win the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1913 for Gitanjali, or the Song of Offerings. Now, this poem, Where the Mind is Without Fear, it was published in 1910 as a part of Tagore's collection of poetry entitled Gitanjali. This is poem number 35 in Gitanjali. Gitanjali is a series of poems or songs. Okay. So later on, William Rothenstein requested Tagore that he should, translate some work, so the Bengali poems into English. So Tagore did that, and um, so finally, this poem was written by Tagore himself. It is not a translation by somebody else. And one important fact that I found out about this poem is that it was published by the Indian Society of London in 1912. But more important than that is that in 1917, um, more than 100 years ago, Tagore read out the English version, which was, earlier called as the Indian Prayer, at Indian National Congress session in Calcutta. Calcutta is now known as Kolkata. Now, what is the theme? What is the setting? See, it's set in the India of the poet's dreams. When Tagore wrote this poem, India was still not a free country. It was under the British rule. And he has written about the India, the free India of his dreams, that India will not just be free from the clutches of the British Empire, but also a lot of things that was then happening in India. He wanted freedom from those shackles as well, from those problems as well. Okay, so, but there is an irony that whatever he had said that this is the India of my dreams, a lot of things which are um, not according to the poet's dreams are going on right now. You will be able to, you know, find that out as we go ahead. Now, it's a short poem. There are 11 lines in all, and it's all the 11 lines are together, they're not divided into stanzas. But for the our summary, I'm going to divide. I have divided the lines into some segments which will be easy, which will make it easy for you to understand and convenient for me to explain. So the first four lines of the poem, it's a beautiful and one of the most popular poems of by an Indian poet, where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls. So, in these lines, the poet begins his imagination, his dream that what would he like his country to be free, to be to be like when it is free. He says that no countryman of his country should live with fear on his mind. See, those days the Indians lived under constant fear of the Britishers because they were the rulers, and the freedom movement had started, and so the Britishers were very strict with, you know, especially the Indians who were enlightened enough to demand freedom. So he says that instead of fear, Indians should hold their heads up fearlessly and they should have confidence in themselves. He wants that, he says knowledge is free. So he wants that knowledge should be available to all the citizens. Okay, that means um, knowledge should not be confined to a few, it should be free for everyone. And he says that the world has, where the world is not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls. So he says, those days and today as well, India was divided into a lot of regions where people could not, stop fighting amongst themselves. Everyone wanted to be supreme, everyone wanted to prove themselves as supreme. And so he says that, these narrow domestic walls of caste, creed, gender, language, culture, all these walls should break and we should come up as one united whole. So then only he says India will be able to face the world, because as long as you are um, busy fighting with each other, anyone from outside can come and have control over you. And this is the reason, students, that India had constantly been subjected to foreign invasions and foreign rule, because the people were not not united. They were always divided and there were always internal clashes going on among those people. And this is what is happening today as well. It's not very different from those days. The next stanza, where words come out from the depth of truth, where tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habit. So, first two lines I'll explain first. So, he says that the words we should not lie, whatever we say should be true. So, the words should come out from the depth of truth and not from falsehood. So, he wants people to be truthful. And people should not see why do we lie when we are just looking for our advantage. So he says that we should stop doing that. We should, in spite of the fact that there could be our loss in telling the truth, still we should not compromise with the truth. Where the clear stream, where tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection, that we have to aim for perfection. And how do we reach it? We have to keep trying, tireless, that we should not be tired of trying. Striving, striving means struggling to achieve something. So this tireless striving should go on and on and on till we achieve perfection. Because those days um, there were a lot of shortcomings, and so enlightened people like Tagore could see the lacunas, they could see the gaps which are there in the society, and so he is trying to bring all that out and telling God. He's talking to God right now. It's a prayer to God, to the Universal Father. So he tells God that this um, imperfection will not do. What I want is, when my country is free, every man should make an effort to improve and keep on trying till they reach self perfection. Third line, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habit. See, he says that what is happening right now is, there are some things that we are doing just because we are habitual of doing something. We do not see any logic or any reason. See the clear stream of reason, like how a stream just dies when it reaches a desert because it is so hot. That same way, the stream of reason, of logic, it loses its way. Why? Because finally logic dries up, because the dreary sand, desert sand of dead habit has taken over. We do not want to listen to any kind of logic. We have become slaves of our habits. And those habits, which habits is he talking about? Those habits which are actually illogical, unscientific, unreasonable, and which are, you can say, they are superstitions. Okay, so he says that he wants the people to question these beliefs and apply logic and reason. Where the mind is led forward by thee, thee means by you. It's a usage of Old English. And whom is he talking to here? He's talking to God. So he says, where the mind is led forward by thee into ever widening thought and action, into that heaven of freedom, my Father, let my country awake. So he says that he wants God, you know, he says that the mind of his people should be led by God. See, if we allow our minds to be led by our problems, to be led by superstitions, to be led by dead habits, then we cannot reach a place, where we are broad minded, where our actions are logical. But only when God leads us, only then we can broaden the horizon of our thoughts and actions. That means our actions will be logical, our thoughts will be broad minded. Into that heaven of freedom, my father, let my country awake. So, this state, this situation, this condition would be ideal. And he says, this is the heaven, God, where I want my country to be free. This my country should awake. He means that when a country is a slave, then that country is in a deep slumber. It hasn't awakened. So when the country is free, that means when that is the time the country is awake. And when it is awake, it should not find itself into all these problems, divisions, and illogical practices, and slavery of habit. No, when the country awakes, when the country is free, all those problems should leave, and India should be transformed into heaven. So, this is all for today, children. I have explained the poem, and keep looking out for the next part of this lesson where I'm going to discuss the literary devices and explain the poem once again. I'll give you the summary of the poem once again, and then we'll move on to the questions. So, very soon I'll be giving you to the links of the other lessons as well, and I hope you will uh, enjoy doing the literature portion as well.